A friend of mine asked a revert, "How did you become Muslim?" The man said, "One day I walked into a public restroom and I found all these grown men washing their feet in the sink." Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulih al-Ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Today we're talking about different da'wah methods. And as you saw in that story, the man became Muslim when he found people washing their feet in the sink. Now, why would that make someone want to become Muslim? Now, see, because we're used to making wudu and stuff, we don't see what the big deal is. But to this man, it was such a big deal. This is the utmost respect, that you're even washing your feet so you can stand in front of your Lord. There can't be any more respect than that. That touched him, and he became a Muslim because of that. But the point of the story is that they weren't really thinking of giving him da'wah. They were engaged in what we refer to as indirect da'wah. And indirect da'wah can take a number of different forms. One of them is to perform an act of worship in public. Even though they're making wudu, and perhaps they were even embarrassed that he caught them, because sometimes they don't understand why your foot is in the sink. Why do you have to wash your feet during the middle of working hours? There was a brother told me he used to work at a building, and there was this uncle that used to always make wudu in the restroom, and they used to call him the footman. So they'd say, "I caught the footman washing his feet today." They didn't understand what it was. So anyways, he's doing the act of worship, but he's probably even embarrassed that they caught him doing it, but it touched the other person in a different way. Many other examples like that. People praying in public. There's a story of a girl who saw Middle Eastern looking men going to the bathroom together after looking at their watches. They're just saying it's time for salah, but she's thinking, look at them. And men don't go to the bathroom together in America typically. Then they come out and they stand for salah, and she said, every time I got on the plane, when I closed my eyes, I would see the movements of salah. And she got home, Googled it, became Muslim. The point is, indirect da'wah involves things that get the message across to someone, or some message across, or maybe even pique someone's interest without you directly speaking and calling them to Allah. So that is things like doing an after worship in a public place, or it could be things like a t-shirt that has a sign or something, or some message that might attract attention. We never say never with da'wah. It could even be a bumper sticker. One time in a da'wah course, I was talking about the thobe, like when you wear the garment, it's not an Islamic garment, obviously, but if you're wearing it, it can bring you da'wah. And when I said that, one of the students said I didn't believe that. And I said, that's not true. Then he said, the next Friday, I put on my thobe, I was going to Jum'ah, and a non-Muslim came running up to me and said, hey, what's going on? What is this? And even I myself, one time I was at a restaurant, and a woman came to me. She said, excuse me, I was wearing a white thobe. She said, are you a rabbi? I'm like, yeah, I'm a black rabbi. Anyways, so indirect da'wah methods that don't involve speaking directly to someone. I gave you this, alluded to this before, using your phone and speaking to someone to get the message indirectly across to someone else. Very effective. Or if you have a friend, we've got some friends, we use this technique. Anytime we want to give da'wah to someone and maybe it's too abrupt, too awkward, but I want them to hear the message. So I just tell my friend. So let me finish the story. So basically I told the guy, Allah is the one who created the heavens and the earth, and He's the only one that's worthy of worship, and He has no partners. I just tell my friend the story. My friend is like, oh yeah, very interesting, makes sense. What did the guy say? We know the drill, but it's for that person to hear. And there are many people who learn this technique and they just start using it. So look, okay, maybe I'm not eloquent enough, maybe I'm not brave enough, maybe I'm too introverted, maybe I'm too shy. You're still not too shy to indirectly give da'wah. You can even just pull up your phone anytime you're at a doctor's office, whatever, and start speaking. That's another method, indirect da'wah. Another method or thing you can do is, like, for example, leaving pamphlets somewhere. At the doctor's office or on the train. As long, use your judgment. As long as you feel that it's not going to be, abused or mistreated, then you can leave things at places for people to read. All this is part of indirect da'wah. Mailing things, maybe I'm too scared to talk to my neighbor. Fine, there's always a way around it. Go take a pamphlet at night. put it in his mailbox and run. Okay? This is a true story. There was a guy who was paralyzed from the neck down, and he lives basically at the hospital because he can't go anywhere else. He's got no one. He lives at the hospital, paralyzed from the neck down. He brought to Islam 100 people. 100. How did he do it? You won't believe how easy it is. No knowledge, no talking, nothing. He's got a pile of pamphlets, and when people walk by, he says to them, "Excuse me, sir or ma'am, please." He can't even point. He says, "Take one of those, please, and read it." He brought 100 people to Islam. There is no way that we're not more capable than this man, inshallah. And I can even do this. He couldn't even do that, and he brought 100 people to Islam. That means there's hope for everybody, doesn't it? Another very effective da'wah technique that few people use, it's not very common, but it's very personal and very effective, inshallah. And that is writing letters to people that you would like to rectify or you want to give advice to. Write them a letter. What do you think? Typed or handwritten? Most likely handwritten, because it's more personal, isn't it? There's a masjid I used to go to, and like as a visitor, and we'd be having lectures and laughing and having a great time. There was a brother, it looked like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. After the lecture, he pulls me aside. He says, "My father, he's a good man. He doesn't lie. He doesn't drink or anything. He just doesn't pray, and it hurts me that he doesn't pray." I said, "Write a letter to him." He said, "Could you write it for me?" He said, "No. You write it to him, and you begin by pouring your heart out and tell him how much you love him, how much you care for him, and how well you think of him, that he's a good person, an honest person. The only thing is salah, and there's nothing to stop him from doing that, and how you'd love for him to pray. Just write the letter." And he wrote it. And I was like gone for a year. I came back maybe a year later. And I saw that brother, and big smile on his face now. And I pulled him aside at the end of the lecture. "What happened?" He says, "Alhamdulillah, I wrote the letter to my father, and he's praying until this day." So what we're trying to say, this is a different da'wah technique. It's not the common thing. If your father doesn't pray, true, you can leave the CD about prayer, the importance of prayer, in his car. You can leave a pamphlet in front of the coffee table. You can do all these you can even talk on the phone to your friend about the importance of salah in front of it. But the letter is different. It's not a common thing. And when you do something different, it touches people in a different way. One of my good friends, I asked him, "How did you start becoming practicing?" He said, I wasn't practicing or praying or anything like that. He said, one day just randomly I get a text message from a friend of mine on my phone. And all it said was, "Read Surah Az-Zumar and contemplate it." The crowds, the gatherings, read that surah, slowly take your time and contemplate it. He said, I took it seriously, and I freed myself one day, and I prayed Maghrib in the masjid, and I sat from Maghrib until the Isha, reading Surah Az-Zumar carefully, slowly. And he said, just that contemplation and just the thoughts and the ideas that are mentioned in that surah, I start practicing from that point. Then he said, this text I got 2 years ago, and since then until now, I've never even met the brother since then. I've never seen him. I didn't run into him since then. And he doesn't even know that I started practicing, but he sent me this text, and these were the results from it. So again, indirect da'wah. And this brother probably sent this to many people. Some of them accepted it, some did, some didn't do it. But the point is, it's a different da'wah methods. It's an indirect method, and it's taking advantage of the technology and the things that we have today. Another method, or it's part of the planning for da'wah, is to have a plan. Let's say, and realistically, everybody has someone at the top of their da'wah list. You know, someone might say the top of my list is my sister. I gotta get her to wear hijab, inshallah. Someone else is my younger brother. I want him to start praying and stop doing the haram. Someone else at the top of my list is my neighbor. He's such a nice guy. I've known him for 5 years. He has the akhlaq of a Muslim. I would love for him to take shahada. Whoever is at the top of your da'wah list, you have to make a plan for how you're going to approach them. And this plan is going to involve a lot of things. It's going to be a very thorough plan. Okay, it's not just going to be like, oh, go talk to him. No. First of all, analyze the individual. Are they an introvert? Are they an extrovert? Are they very scientific and intricate and detailed and very analytic and logical? Or are they in a very type of emotional person? Put that down, all right? Then write down what are the strong points. Like what is it that keeps them away from Islam? What is their biggest obstacle? Or what is it that keeps them attached to their religion more than anything else? Many times someone will come to me and say, I want to talk to my mother about salah, or I want to talk to my mother about Islam. But the minute I even edge close to the subject, she says, I don't want to talk about religion, very firmly, and we never even talk about religion. It's not like I gave her da'wah and it didn't work. She doesn't allow me to even speak about religion. Or someone might say, I'm trying to give da'wah to my younger sister to tell her about hijab. The minute I bring up the subject, she immediately stops me and cuts me off. Then they ask me, how can I get her to listen to me? How can I get her to listen or to talk about Islam? How can I get her to talk about hijab? Well, I mean, what do you want me to do? If for years, every time you try, she cuts you off like straight, don't talk to me about that, I don't want to talk about it. Okay, I can only think of one thing. Find some chains and chain her up like this so she can't plug her ears, and then force her to listen to you. Okay, in all seriousness, that's not going to work either, right? So there's a very nice technique. And you sit down with your mother who doesn't want to talk to you about Islam, or your sister who doesn't want to hear about hijab, and sit down and say, listen, I noticed now for the last 3 years, every time I talk about hijab or every time I want to talk about religion, you stop me and you don't want to talk about religion. I get that. And I'm not here to talk to you about religion. I don't want to talk about religion right now. I just want to know one thing. I want you to answer one question and I'm leaving. Why is it that you really don't like to talk about religion? That's all I want to know. Or you can say, why is it that you don't want to talk about hijab? And believe me, I'm not going to talk about hijab now. I just want to know why you don't want to talk about hijab. Just tell me. I'm just interested. And we're not going to talk about hijab. When they tell you the reason, when they answer that question, this is what it's like they're doing. It's like you have an enemy inside a fortress, and you're not able to penetrate this fortress, and you've besieged it for months. And then you ask them, is there any weakness to this fortress? And they tell you, yeah, actually on the southwestern side, there's a little tunnel under a rock, and it brings you right into the middle of the fortress. And they're really saying, this is how you can defeat me. So if your mother or your sister answers that question, she's really telling you, this is the angle through which you can talk to me about hijab. So she says, I don't want to talk about hijab because people force it on me, or I don't want to talk about religion because it ends up in a fight. That's it? That's the only reason? Okay then, I promise you we're not going to fight. Anyways, the point is, they told you what the problem is, find a solution for it, and now for the future you'll be able to talk. But have a plan, and then what is your strongest argument's going to be. And when we do the da'wah workshop, we actually plan it like this so that you go with a game plan. You know what to do, you've got it all worked out, you've rehearsed it. It's not just randomly, I'm going to give them da'wah. This is for the person at the top of your list. May Allah give you tawfiq with the people at the tops of your list. Sallallahu mubarak ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.